I headed in the direction of the house. I passed half a dozen bus stops. Buses came every 5 minutes. People were constantly getting on and off of it. Zombies. Expressionless faces. A pregnant woman stepped out and bumped into me. "Excuse me," I said politely in my high, boyish voice. She said nothing, just kept moving. I was standing outside the house at 4:55. I walked slow. I called the landlord, Tim. He told me he'd be there in a couple of minutes. I waited. At 5:05, an older, bald man walked up to the corner where I was standing. He looked at me with a grizzled face. He had a glass eye and a huge scar on the left side of his face. He spoke with a heavy accent. I couldn't place the origin. "Are you here to see Tim?" he asked brusquely. I nodded my head and waited for him to speak further. He said nothing more. He leaned against the gate and stared at me. It was starting to feel almost comical. Tim appeared a moment later, coming down the many steps that led up to the house. He opened the gate. "Sean?" he asked, looking at me. The man with the glass eye was already heading up the steps into the house. Tim was white, the first white person I had seen since I stepped out of the airport. I smiled with gratitude. "You must be Tim," I said. I extended my hand. He took it. He had a limp handshake. "So, I just wanted to ask right off the bat, is it possible that I can move in today? I don't really have another place to stay," I said. "I have the first month's rent on me." He cut me off. "Do you want to step inside so I can close the gate, or do you just want to stand out here?" he asked, sounding rather irritated. "Certainly," I muttered. I hoisted my 2 bags up to my chest and began the long ascent up to the house. Tim did not help with my bags. He didn't use the front door. He led me to the back of the house. A black kid my age seemed to be leaving in a hurry. Extremely dark skin and nappy hair. He brushed past me and Tim. "Aw, my bad, dog," he said to me after knocking shoulders. I gave him a weak smile. "No problem," I said. We stepped into the house. "This is the kitchen," Tim pointed to the kitchen. "That's the bathroom," Tim pointed to the bathroom. "That's where you'll be staying." Tim pointed in the direction of the living room. Rows of bunk beds lined the walls. There were at least 10 of them. 20 beds. 20 people slept in this house. I could give you a quick tour of the upstairs, but not much is up there. Just another bathroom and a table. "So, sound good?" I nodded slowly. "Where exactly will I be staying? Like which bed will be mine?" "That would be..." Tim walked over to the closet bed he could find, to the closest bed he could find. "This one," he said. Someone else's suitcase was on it, along with bread and ramen noodles. "Is the first month's rent okay?" I asked weakly. My voice was leaving me. "Yeah, that's fine," Tim said. I pulled out my wallet and handed him the money. 3 $100 bills, a 20 and a 5. He counted it. "One last thing." Tim stepped closer to me and lowered his voice. "You're going to want to make sure you lock up all your valuables in one of these lockers. I don't want to point any fingers, but people have been coming up to me and saying that someone in this house is stealing their stuff. You know, what can you do, right? So yeah, you're definitely going to want to keep everything you don't want stolen locked up," he said. "Where can I buy a lock?" I asked. "And sheets." The bed didn't have sheets on it. Or a pillow. Tim spoke quickly. "You can go to Ross's for the sheets. It's a couple of blocks down on the right. Once you get to Vermeer Street, just turn left and keep going until you get to it. The lock you can probably just go to Vaughn's for that, which is in the opposite direction. But both you can find pretty easy." "Okay," I said. "All right, I'll see you later." And Tim was out the door. I looked around the place. I didn't bother checking out the bathroom. I knew what that would look like. The kitchen sink was overflowing with dirty dishes, pots, and pans. Blah, 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 blah. Overflowing dishes, pots, and pans. I stepped into the living room. There were clothes all over the floor. Shoes piled high in the corner underneath the staircase. A table littered with marijuana paraphernalia. A bong and the guts of a Dutch. Rolling papers. A man was staring at me. He was lying in his lower bunk bed facing me across the room. Black. His feet hung off the bed. He was on his laptop. The bright light illuminated his face. A stony expression. I could see the whites of his eyes as he stared up at me. I nodded at him. He gave me the slightest of nods back. The television behind me. Another one was sitting up in his bed watching it. It sounded like BET. He looked at me and smiled. I smiled back at him. I walked to my upper bunk bed. Hesitantly, I removed all the stuff on it and placed it neatly on the floor. I took my book bag off and put it on my new bed. I took off my shoes and climbed up. I stared up at the ceiling. My head rested against my book bag. I tried to close my eyes. My arms were laid at my sides. Within minutes, I thought I could feel them being bitten. I wondered if it was my imagination. Regardless, it made me sit up. My phone vibrated. Kyle had finally gotten back to me. I opened the text message. "Welcome to LA," it read. I wanted to cry. A skinny guy walked into the house. He was wearing a beanie, acne on his face. Skinny. Wary eyes. He looked at me and opened his mouth to speak. Was that your stuff? I asked him. I put it over there. I nodded in the direction of his belongings. You knew? He asked. He was busying himself with his suitcase, pulling clothes out and throwing them on the bunk bed below me. Yeah, I said. My voice deepened. It was subconscious. Where are you from? He asked. South Jersey, I replied. Damn, that's far. What brings you out here? I shrugged. I've always wanted to come to California, so I figured why not here. Damn, that's a long trip though. You came alone? Yeah. You in school? No. You should think about that shit. That's what everyone else is doing at least. It's like the thing to do nowadays. A couple people here go to school. You got a job yet? Nah. Another kid started laughing from the corner of the room. His voice reminded me of Lil Wayne. He got up from the bed and walked over to the weed table. Niggas be all crazy reckless and shit. He was a mumbler. I looked at him. He sat down and started rolling a joint. Why is every new nigga that comes up in this bitch looks miserable as a motherfucker, yo? Like they look like they be all ready to start crying and shit. I just decided to laugh. I got a lot of shit on my mind, I said. You missed your moms? He asked. I guess, I said. Yeah, you look like a motherfucking mama's boy. He chuckled to himself. The guy with the beanie kept moving. Definitely want to get a job, my dude. That's important. You're lucky to have gotten in here. A lot of people want to be in here, but it's all about timing. This is like the cheapest place you could be living. That or the street, nigga. The Lil Wayne impersonator laughed. I ignored him and directed my attention to the skinny one. Do you have a job? Nah, I hustle. The streets pay me, my nigga. Thank God. I ain't like you. I was born here. I know how to make it work for me. You just gotta find out how to make it work for you. A lot of people come here thinking shit is gonna happen for them, but it doesn't. They end up homeless and shit because they can't find a job and they don't know how to hustle. Watch your shit, too. Make sure your shit is locked up. People will come through that and steal that shit, dog. They don't give a fuck about you. Like that nigga right there. He nodded in the direction of the kitchen. An older Asian man was standing at the counter making a sandwich. That motherfucker will steal your fucking food if you don't lock it up. I nodded my head in understanding. You smoke? He asked. I do. Good. We smoke a lot of weed here. So if you ever need any, just let me know. I'll hook you up. Do you have any right now? I asked abruptly. I said it before I even thought. I had promised myself not to touch drugs when I landed. I was trying to break that promise within the first day. Lil Wayne burst out laughing. Yo, I knew that was coming. I knew it. He ready for it. You ever smoke Cali Kush, nigga? Nah, I said. I turned to the skinny guy. How much do you want for it? The skinny guy thought about it. You know what? Since it's your first day and all, you don't gotta pay. I'ma smoke you out for free this time. As a welcome present. Shit, says you? Nigga, touching my shit will cost you $5, the other guy said. Damn, Avon. I was only gonna charge the nigga like $2. He can pay for both of us then, the skinny guy said. $5 is fine, I said. I climbed down the bunk bed. I was handed a bong and a lighter. I put my mouth to it and inhaled. The smoke entered my lungs. I held it in for a moment, hoping that this would calm me down, though I knew it wouldn't. I exhaled. So how long have you been here? I've been in this place for about 5 weeks now, but I move around the area. I don't stay anywhere for more than 3 months at a time, the skinny guy said.